So yes, good morning. And when you're seeing this, it is my 30th birthday. Yes, the 1st of August 1996 I was born. 30 years on, the 1st of August 2026, I am out to do a fitness fragrance review of my new birthday fragrance. Apologies, it is very, very sunny. It's a bit of a heat wave again going on in the UK. And this is a very, very reflective bottle. And it's from Montale. It's the first Montale fragrance I've ever owned. Now, it is a fragrance I have smelt before. My brother used to own this one, and I bought it because I wanted to treat myself to something that's a little bit stronger. I love my strong fragrances. So I've gone for Montale Sweet Oriental Dream. Now, it isn't really a particularly popular or well-known fragrance, I wouldn't say. I don't think it's one of Montale's real selling fragrances. You know, you've got Intense Cafe, which is probably their biggest seller, a nice rose coffee combination. This one is all about the honey. The honey in this is extremely strong. It's very prominent, but it also does have a bit of rose. People talk about almost a Turkish delight kind of smell that they get when all the notes join together. So if you haven't seen my fitness fragrance reviews before, essentially I'm going to do a morning workout. So I'm going to go for a run, walk to the gym, do a gym workout, walk back, all while wearing this fragrance. We're going to rank it on 5 categories. We'll look at its price / value for money. We'll look at its versatility. We'll look at its projections, how strong it is essentially when I'm doing my run, see how much it fills up the room. Compliment factor, so will people say nice things about it, and then also its longevity, where I'll spray miles before I go to the gym. 3 hours will go by, won't apply it again, and we'll just see how much we can detect it. But what we'll do, we'll look at the note breakdown. It's not a huge notes list on this one, so yeah, we'll get into it very quickly. So I don't need my post-it notes today because there's only 4 notes to list, and the top one is rose. Then you've got in the middle of the phrase you've got almond and honey, and then in the base you've got vanilla. So you can already see from this note breakdown it's very much a winter sweet fragrance. So what I'm wearing on a summer's day, well, as we know, it's a birthday treat for myself, and I wanted something a little bit different. Now, what do you really pick up from this? I think the first thing you'll get when you smell this fragrance is that strong smell of the honey. The honey here is very prominent. It's almost like the marzipan smell, obviously coming from the almond and that sweet vanilla. It makes it a very, very sticky fragrance. It is super sticky, and that's why it lingers in the air, and that's why I remember it being so strong, hence why I bought it. Now, some people say they don't detect the rose in this. I really do. I think when you get to the dry down, now I know it's the top note in this fragrance, but when you get to the dry down of this one, it's very prominent. You can't ignore rose. Rose is always a strong note in my opinion. Now, I've had a lot of floral fragrances, Rose Jam by Lush, Frank Olivier Oud Touch. They're very strong rosy fragrances, and this is no different. This one is very heavy on that. But it is also competing against very strong notes, particularly in honey and in vanilla, so it's not like it's overpowering on the floral if you're someone who doesn't like floral fragrances. Do I think it's more feminine? Also, we'll go into that later on, but yes, I do. But ultimately, this is just a very, very strong, cut through the cold type winter fragrance, and I cannot wait to review this one today. So yeah, what we are going to do, we're going to go out for our run now. We're going to do the first 2 categories for price / value for money, and also its versatility. I do like this little tag on it as well, but yeah, not about the bottle, it's about the smell today. I'll see you out there. And we are off. So another fitness fragrance review, and if you think Montale Sweet Oriental Dream is going to get off lightly today because it was a birthday treat for myself, then think again. It's still going to be held to the same high standard as all the other fragrances that I've reviewed before. So we got to start, as always, with price / value for money for this one. And the online price, the only sort of place I could find it was actually on the Tino. Now I'm going to just say, as a bit of a disclaimer, I actually managed to buy one that was 70% full on eBay for £33, which I thought was an absolute bargain. Because if you want this, which it is in 100ml size and 50ml size, but for the 100ml size you're going to be paying nearly £80, £79, and 50ml it's like £61. So do I think that's good value for money for this? Well, I don't doubt its strength and its performance and its quality in that sense. And I don't think the quality of the oils is poor in this. But do I see it as a real high-end, high-quality fragrance? How much would I pay if we're just talking about the scent quality? I'd probably say £50 to £70 is about right. And I say this for 2 reasons. I'm going to I've got to be a bit careful here in how I say this. Honey as a note in fragrances. Now, I've touched on this. I've smelled a few sort of honey fragrances before. Lush do one called Honey I Wash the Kids. And the note of honey in fragrances can smell a little bit plasticky, a little bit cheap, and a little bit synthetic. And I almost compare it to the note of banana in fragrances, when you get the note of banana in fragrances, it doesn't smell like an actual banana. It's more like that gourmand banana that you might get in a milkshake mix, you know, or a smoothie. It's never like that really natural banana. It's very much a synthetic, sweet, candied banana. And I feel like the honey in this is like that as well, which almost makes it smell a little bit cheaper. And I feel like Montale here, their biggest selling point is its pure strength, but the rose note in it smells good. This kind of Turkish delight accord that you get with all the notes working in combination is very nice, it's very pleasant, but I don't think it necessarily smells any more. I wouldn't want to pay any more than the price that the Tino are setting, if I'm being honest, hence why I looked elsewhere and I was lucky to get a kind of reduced price. So I'm going to say it's kind of quite expensive. I think you can certainly get better fragrances for around £80, and for everyone, obviously we're going to go on to performance later, strength isn't always a good thing, and if it doesn't smell as high quality as something else, maybe you don't want that. So I'm just going to mark it down a little bit today for its price / value for money. I'm going to go 6 out of 10. It's not bad, and if you love the note of rose and you love those sweet honey, sweet vanillic, you know, sweet almond notes, then you're going to really like this one. But it won't be for everyone. It definitely has that kind of Middle Eastern vibe with that rose in it, and I just think for everyone, some people it might be a little bit divisive. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 for price / value for money. Okay, so moving on to versatility then for Sweet Oriental Dream. How much can you dress this one up, dress this one down? Different ages, different occasions, different seasons, all those things. Well, I briefly touched upon this earlier on today. And if I was being stereotypical, who do I think this one would most suit? Well, I definitely think that rose note and how sweet it is makes it lean more feminine. Some people have said this smells a little bit like baby powder. Personally, I don't really get that. But I'm kind of getting this smell of a slight floral background with some very sweet honey, and I think for a lot of people that's going to be more feminine. Now, it is 100% a winter full type fragrance. Even if it was a slightly warm autumn day, I would steer clear from this one because it is very, very heavy, very sticky, and it's certainly not suited to what I'm doing today, going for a run, going to the gym. So even I'm going to probably have to just tone my sprays down when I do that workout in the gym later on, because I think it's going to be too nauseating for me, almost as much as it would be for anyone else. But this is going to capture a cold. If you want to make a statement, if you want to leave a huge scent trail, sillage, then go for this. It is brilliant. It is so good for that. Again, I wore it the other day just to sort of, just test it. And my brother, obviously, he's had this fragrance before. I sprayed it on my arm, just one spray. And he was behind me when we were just kind of going single file on the path. And he said, I can really smell that. That's really strong. And I just think on a hot day, it's not one that particularly wears off from my own impressions. It only gets stronger with the heat. So you're going to want to wear these on those cold days, those sort of frosty days. Look, it's not really serious. So if you wanted to wear it at home, maybe one spray on your chest, or one spray on your blanket, or whatever, I think it'd be absolutely fine. And if you want to go and make a statement, meeting up with someone where you really want a crowd to notice you, this one will turn heads because it is very strong. But other than that, obviously a hot summer's day, no. I think it's too heavy for those pressure situations. So again, things like job interviews, even in the office, if you're getting hot and bothered, I'm not sure you're going to want this one. I really don't think you will. So those kind of more meet-up occasions, clubbing occasions, and if you tone your sprays down, those occasions at home, because they are very relaxing, easy to pull off notes. There's no note in this breakdown when you go, well, I've not heard of that one before. But its versatility is limited. You're going to want the summer fragrance to complement this, particularly if you're like me, who likes his exercise and his workouts. So versatility, I'm actually going to have to give it a 5 out of 10. This isn't a very high score at the moment for a birthday gift to myself, is it? But I've got to be completely honest. And versatility, for what it is great for in the winter, it's great. But its overall use in many situations is limited. So 5 out of 10. When we get back, we will talk about projection and how much I'm noticing it during my run. So there we are, workout done. It is now time to spray my room to test for projection. So I'm going to do 10 sprays in my room, essentially to see how much it fills up this area. So if this was a work office with a colleague come in and go, oh, there's a nice fragrance on. Obviously I'm at home with a family member or friend to test, I'm wearing fragrance. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll just let that sit for 10 minutes. I'll go down and talk about projection. But before that, 3 sprays on each arm. And this is just a test for longevity. So it's it's just gone 9:15. It'll be about 12:15 by the time I leave the gym. We'll see how much we can still detect that fragrance after a walk, a workout, and a shower. But yeah, let's head downstairs, have something to eat, and we'll talk about how much I noticed Sweet Oriental Dream during my run. Proper hat hair there, isn't it? Anyway, let's talk about projection during my run then for Montale Sweet Oriental Dream. How much did I notice it during my run? Well, actually, to be honest, didn't notice it as much as I thought. And I'll be honest with you, from my memory, it's not as strong as how I remember my brother having it. Maybe it's been reformulated over time. Maybe because this is a used batch. It's about 70% full when I got it. Maybe, I don't know. Don't know how it's been stored potentially. Or maybe it just doesn't do that well in heat as I thought it would. I thought it was going to be almost really cloying. It wasn't. I noticed it sort of 4 or 5 times, maybe pushing up into double figures, I think would say too much. But it was never heavy. Even when I did get it, it was very much a fleeting. I could smell my spray. When I went to the toilet, I could smell it there. So when I was stopping more than anything and changing direction. But other than that, certainly had it stronger. I think for what I want today, that's absolutely fine. But I would have wanted a little bit more kick, which is why I've obviously bought it for my birthday. That being said, I think it's going to fill my room up absolutely fine. It's the sort of note that I do expect to be quite a big room filler. So maybe this is a little bit more wearable than how I remember it. So we'll head upstairs and yeah, we'll see how much we can detect the scent. Okay, in we go. Probably hear my mum's brushing her teeth, so I'm whispering. So how can I smell the fragrance? Yes, it's definitely there. But again, as I was saying a minute ago, it is not as heavy as I expected it to be. It's probably about that I sprayed more about 15 minutes ago. It's probably about 50 to 60% as strong. So it's pushing well above average, but it's just from what I experienced from Montale fragrances before. They can be really heavy. This one, I think it's about right. Again, people are going to recognise this. People are going to notice it because of its projection. There's no two ways about it. If you've been sitting in a room for a while, if you do move, because it does leave a really strong scent trail, this is going to get noticed. So even though it's not, maybe I thought it was going to get 11 today, particularly when I started this review, because I just know how strong it is. I'm going to go about 8.5. I think 8.5 is fair. That's above average, but it's not nuclear strong. And maybe that's a good thing. Again, with the notes of rose, honey, they can be quite nauseating. So I think in some ways, this lighter performance is more than enough. It's going to be too heavy still for some people. But if you like your beast mode scents, this one from before. Definitely from my experience here, doesn't feel as heavy as it was. Of course, it is a hot day. Maybe it's just sort of wearing off a bit quicker in the winter. It probably still would project more. But yeah, 8.5 out of 10. Still above average for projection. But what we're going to do, we're going to head to the gym now. We're going to talk about compliment factor next. Do I think people, if they do notice it, which I'm pretty sure they will, say good things about it? Now, honestly, I am not making this up. I've been out for about 10 minutes since I reapplied the spray. I've had 3 bees fly around my head. And I'm not sure if it's because of the honey in it or not, but I've just literally, my mum's just headed to the other gym she goes to. And she said, "Oh, I can really smell your spray." And I said, "Yeah, it's because bees keep attacking me." And she said, "It probably is your spray." Who knows? Maybe it's the honey note in it, because it is very prominent. But is it a compliment getting sent for people as much as it is for bees? I think it is. It's one of them. It's going to get noticed through its strength. Now, do I think it's the most mass appealing smell in the world? Probably not. And actually, when I've looked at like a few reviews on YouTube and stuff, there is a lot of people who say it's kind of got that baby powder smell. It's a little bit too strong. They don't like the rose. And sometimes people don't like that kind of Middle Eastern vibe it has, because it is quite heavy and it is strong. And it maybe doesn't feel that suited to UK and sort of Western cultures, but for me, I absolutely love it. I love the rose in this. I love the sweet notes. I love vanilla as a note in fragrances. And I think the most important thing is they're a little bit different. When you look at those 4 or 5 notes in this scent, you could go, that's going to be just a generic wintertime fragrance. But that rose note that really kicks through, giving that sort of Turkish delight accord, does make it stand out, does make it a bit different. And for me, that gives it a little bit more of an edge. And I think that difference as well, alongside its strength, will make people mention it and just be curious as to what it is. And yeah, you're going to be noticed. If you're walking through a corridor, if you've oversprayed it a little bit, people are going to be going, "I know where you've been." And I think for that reason, it will get confidence. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 again. I think the only reason I would potentially mark this one down is, again, a few of the criticisms I've seen other people say. It maybe isn't the most mass appealing type scent, and its lack of freshness means you couldn't wear it throughout the whole year, so it would only be for certain occasions, but you definitely wear them on occasions in the winter where you want to get noticed and get compliments ultimately. So yeah, 9 out of 10. Of course, if we do get into the gym today, we'll bump up to a 10. There we are, workout done, and I had this really loud helicopter come over about an hour and a half ago, just as I got to the gym. And literally, the field I just walked by as I came in, there was an air ambulance there. Don't know what's going on, but yeah, not quite the same as having the armed police here when the gym went into lockdown. That was quite interesting, wasn't it? If you haven't seen that video, check it out. Essentially, there was a person walking around with a toy gun. Police thought there was an armed person around, and yeah, we weren't allowed to leave the building. Anyway, we're not talking about that today. We are talking about Montale Sweet Oriental Dream and its longevity. So it's just gone 12:05. It's time to swell my arms and see if we can detect anything. Oh wow, I am surprised and I'm disappointed. You know, look, it's been 3 hours since I applied this fragrance, and it's there, but it's extremely faint. I mean, a lot fainter than I thought it was. You know, I haven't sprayed any less on my arm today. It's probably about 10%, and I'm probably being even more generous there. I must say, compared to how I remembered this one, and I have looked at a few reviews online, and people have said it isn't overly that strong, or not, you know, enormous strength. They have said it's strong, but not enormous. It does feel like it's certainly more watered down than when I remember it. And again, maybe that is the heat today, maybe that's made it evaporate essentially a bit more, but I don't think that is the case, because I've had other scents where, yeah, but they've certainly not done that, and they've been heavy winter, honey-based scents, sweet vanilla scents. This one, yeah, it's not lost. I mean, certainly in that first hour to two, it was pretty strong and I could detect it. But as I was getting near the end of my workout, I couldn't really smell it at all. And yeah, I can't now. And I'm really surprised, because this, to be honest with you, I was expecting to give 10, maybe even 11 marks for projection and longevity today. And I definitely can't do that for this one. So I'm going to have to give it for longevity. I have to go 5 out of 10. That's really underwhelming. Do you know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to go 4 out of 10. I think it's a 4 out of 10 because it's very faint, and maybe sometimes you do become a little bit nose blind to this one, hence why I've given it a slightly higher score. But yeah, there's not much there. It's very underwhelming. Yeah, no, I'd have to reapply this definitely, and yeah, I certainly thought with this scent I wouldn't have to do that even in the high heat. So yeah, 4 out of 10 for longevity. But yeah, let's head back, count up all the scores and give my overall thoughts. There we are, workout done, and it's a little bit earlier actually for me today. It's 1:26 in the afternoon. I have done 42,496 steps, all while wearing Montale's Sweet Oriental Dream, the fragrance I bought specifically for my 30th birthday. So what was the total score then, based on those 5 rounds that we did out of 50? 32 and a half. Now, that's quite low, isn't it, really, for me? I mean, look, it's not a bad score by any means, well over 50%. But you'd think if I'm buying a 30th birthday present for myself, it maybe would have got a higher score. And I think probably the best way I can describe this phrase, it was essentially for me an itch I wanted to scratch. It was one of those scents I've always been saying for a long time. I need to get it again. I remember my brother having it. I want it in my collection at some point. And maybe my interest, maybe my taste has changed over those 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago it was probably when I first smelled this fragrance. Maybe that's it. Maybe I don't enjoy it as much. But I think the thing that has marked it down today is its performance. I think it's quite high on the price. I personally don't think it's something I'd particularly want to spend, you know, nearly, well, just under £80 for, essentially around that £75, £80. And while it's very nice, and I think it's great for someone who, you know, a fragrance person who collects scents, because it has that uniqueness about it, for the average person, which is what I'm trying to mark the scores on here, not my own personal bias, essentially, I don't think it quite delivers. Look, again, it's quite strong. It does have a bit, you know, it lacks its versatility. You're not going to use this in many situations other than the fall winter time, because it is very much a sweet fragrance. Again, it's not one that you can just get readily available everywhere. Again, could it get compliments? I've given it a really high score for compliments, but that's more through its strength. And I said, it's not as strong as I remember it being, but I do think that strength is above average. But I don't think it's necessarily the scent and the quality of the scent that would give you the confidence. I think it would just turn heads because of how strong it is as much as anything else. But if you do like rose in phrases, that Turkish delight kind of vibe, I think you'll like this one as well. I don't know if it's maybe what I'd say is Montale's best fragrance. I think obviously the Intense Cafe, and I think they do an Intense Cafe Stretto or something like that. I, again, I'm still a little bit like I wanted a bit more. I wanted a little bit more kick from this. It's still strong. I do need to say it's still strong, but it's just not maybe as strong as I remember it as well. And yeah, would I buy it again necessarily? Maybe not. But am I disappointed I've got it in my collection? Absolutely not. No way at all. I do think though that price is very steep. I'd say if you can get it for £50 and under, which you're probably not going to find unless it's on a really good offer or on eBay, I probably don't think you'd feel like you've got great value for money because there's nothing too complex going on. It is quite simplistic. But yeah, I do like the scent. I do appreciate the scent. It's definitely one that I remembered, and when I smelled it again, I was like, that's the fragrance. And its uniqueness is probably its biggest selling point. So fragrance fans, fragrance connoisseurs, I still do like this one. I do recommend it for anyone that hasn't tried it before. Yeah, give it a little smell because it is an interesting one. Very, very different. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one today. I hope that didn't sound too negative as well. And I do want to say, obviously, as when this is uploaded, it will be my birthday. Thank you for all the kind messages over the last year and whenever, because I do get a lot of people who like the fragrance films at the moment. So I will do plenty more of them. But I am going to go out this afternoon, do a walk. I'm going to review one of my cheapies, one of the other birthday presents I bought. It's Rapport Original. It used to be called Rapport Red. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy that one. And I think this one may get a better score than Montale did. So yeah, hopefully you'll join me for that one. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.